1951 is a book set in the 24th century in a world where media and censorship has taken control over the population. Montag is a fireman who burns books because they are considered the cause of people's unhappiness and therefore illegal. Montag meets a young girl named Clarice that makes him think about the contents of the books he burns. Then one day, when an old woman and her books are set aflame by his squad, Montag steals one of her books. Montag gets influenced by others such as his wife and Betty that books are not worth the attention and curiosity he gives. At that point, Montag remembers and seeks an old English professor, Faber, to understand more about the books, and both agree to help each other. Later, Montag is forced to burn his own home because he has books, but he kills Betty purposely in the act. Montag runs and hides the books in another fireman's house, and escapes down a river. Montag floats down the river and meets a group of social outcasts or criminals like himself. Gregor, the leader of the group, explains the purpose of the group, to memorize a book's contents for preservation for the future. Montag becomes the Book of Escalates from the Catholic Bible. As the group moves, bombs destroy the city, indicating the final war has begun. The group decides to return to the city with Montag in the lead. Forbidden City is a story about a boy named Alexander Jackson who goes on a trip to Beijing, China with his father, or cameraman, Ted Jackson, to see and report a protest by university student at Tiananmen Square. Alex, being a military war nut, is extremely excited. However, the protest at the square evolves into a brutal violent massacre as the PLA, People's Legislation Army, start to kill students and civilians under martial law. Alex loses contact with his father, Eddie Nolan, and witnesses his friend, Lao Shu, being killed. Alex passes out after being shot and is taken care of by Xinhua's grandma. Alex rides on a Pinanchi, driven by Xinhua, who is appearing to be selling a washing machine to the Canadian embassy. Along the way, Alex records more footage of the massacre and keeps the previous footage of the square. Near the embassy, the PLA soldiers realize that Xinhua is a student and is shot in front of Alex while he's dragged to the airport. There, Alex and his father are reunited. After arriving in Canada, Alex reveals footage and tapes of the event, which his dad sends to the CBC to broadcast. Alex melts and destroys his lead soldier military collection. Significant or common themes found in both works are rebellion against society to do what is right, appearance versus reality, isolation, and sacrifice and death. Rebellion against society. Both Montag and Alex go through a similar change in experience that pushes them to rebel and do what is right. Both works are person versus society. Both protagonists undergo a similar change in character to do what is right. In Montag's society, books are considered evil and useless. Therefore, it is illegal to have books, and Montag followed. After realizing the other perspective of books by Clarice, Montag starts to slightly rebel. In a chapter, Montag questions Betty about his job as a fireman to burn books. "I've been thinking about the fire last week, about the man whose library we fixed. What happened to him? They took him screaming off to the asylum. He wasn't insane. Any man's insane who thinks he can fool the government and us." "I try to imagine," said Montag, "how it would feel. I mean, to have firemen burn our houses and our books. We haven't any books. But if we did have some. You got some?" Betty blinks slowly. "No." Here Montag questions Betty about something no one would typically ask. In addition to this igniting rebellion, Montag later forces his wife to read books and inquires Professor Faber to teach him more about books. In this quote, Montag expresses his change to his perspective to his wife after he witnesses a woman being burned to death when she refuses to leave her books to burn alone. "It is not just the woman that died," said Montag. "Last night I thought about all the kerosene I've used in the last 10 years. And I thought about books, and for the first time I realized that a man was behind each one of those books. A man had to think them up. A man had to take a long time to put them down on paper. And I never even thought of that before." Montag rebels by stealing books and kills Betty, causing an uprising within society. Later in the story, Montag starts to understand what books can do, and tries to get his support from his wife to help him bring books back into society. "Jesus God," said Montag, "every hour so damn things in the sky. Why doesn't someone want to talk about it? Is it because we're having so much fun at home we're forgotten the world? I've heard the rumors about hate too. Do you know why? I don't, that's sure. Maybe the books can get us half out of the cave. They just might stop us from making the same damn insane mistakes. I don't hear those idiot bastards in the parlor talking about it. God, Millie, don't you see? An hour a day, 2 hours, with these books, and maybe." Though Montag fails to impact his wife or the city, Montag continues to show his rebellion as by becoming part of the social outcasts who memorize literature for future generations. In the text Forbidden City, the protagonist Alex believed that it was the government's or military's job to protect its own people. However, Alex, not knowing Chinese, innocently states his idea of the protest to Lao Shu, a translator, which Lao Shu clarifies, quote, "The editorial attacks the students who demonstrated in Tiananmen Square on the 15th. It says that the students are promoting chaos. I didn't see anything bad when I was there. You couldn't read the posters or banners, Shanda. After witnessing the student rebellion at Tiananmen Square and the brutal attacks by the soldiers, Alex has the urge to do something, so he plans to bring evidence of the incident back to Canada. Alex is influenced by the protests, stating, "It came into my mind that many of the students are only a year or two older than me. They're trying to change things. People like Halan and Hong are sacrificing a lot to change things. Dad demonstrated too, about South African environmental stuff. What have I done so far? Watched TV, listened to the radio, gone to school, played with toy soldiers?" Alex rebels by joining the protest and smuggles tapes, causing the death of Lao Shu and Xinhua, a student. This creates an upraise because he's a foreign news reporter that can possibly leak information to the rest of the world. After Xinhua, a protesting student, starts to lose hope in the situation, Alex responds defiantly, stating, "Nobody will be able to pretend that this isn't happening, I vowed, because I've got it on tape, and I'm going to see those tapes somehow get back to Canada." Alex continues to show his rebellion when he gives the tapes to his father to broadcast, and destroys the military figurines in the end of the story. Another theme is appearance versus reality. Both Montag and Alex, through experience, learned the real truth behind their situation. Both were originally influenced or brainwashed by others or society to believe in a certain ordeal or perspective. For Montag, at first, Montag liked burning books. At the first line or portion of the book, it reflects his liking of burning, quote, "It was a pleasure to burn." He was brainwashed into society's views of book hatred and never questioned it. When Clarice asks him, "Do you ever read any of the books you burned?" he laughs, saying, "That's against the law." It shows how much Montag never realized what books truly are and never actually questioned it. Montag's co-worker Betty explicitly states his opinion to Montag during an incident where they were burning books, quote, "Colored people don't like Little Black Shampoo. Burn it. White people don't feel good about Uncle Tom's Cabin. Burn it. Someone written a book on tobacco and cancer of lungs? The cigarette people are weeping? Burn the book. Serenity, Montag. Peace, Montag. Take your fight outside. Better yet, into the incinerator. Forget them. Burn them all. Burn everything. Fire is bright, and fire is clean." Betty represents society's sick view on books. Books are seen as a sin, dirty, illegal, and causes distress. Later, after confronting Clarice and Flavor, who both spark Montag's interest in books, Montag learns that books have opinion, meaning, and needs respect and protection. Faber teaches Montag and the readers what a book truly is. It's not the books you need, it's some of the things that once were in books. Look for it in nature and look for it in yourself. Books were only one type of receptacle, where we stored a lot of things we were afraid of we might forget. There is nothing magical in them at all. The magic is only in what books say, how they stitch the patches of the universe together into one garment for us. In the text Forbidden City, Alex was taught by historical texts and stories of war that power was optimism and great, and warriors were measured by strength, heroism, and tactics. Quote, "I take a lot of flash from kids because I'm interested in military history and weapons and restaging battles and stuff like that. It isn't the killing and the ghoulish stuff that interests me. It's the battle plans and the strategy and the weapons. It's like chess or curling or bridge. Those are all games I really like." Here Alex compares war to games and is only concerned over the tactics and strategy related to war and battles. Later on, Alex starts to understand the situation of the protest. He starts to doubt his definition of war. Sure enough, there were dozens and dozens of rail cars resting on the sidings with thousands of soldiers sitting outside cooking noodles on open fire, washing clothes in little wash basins, doing what all soldiers have to do, wait. It was awesome. I almost wished I could be one of them. Then I remembered Lan and Hong and why the army was in Beijing. Through Lao Tzu and Xinhua and other students, Alex learns the real war involves bloody sacrifice, justice, and killing of the innocents. When Alex is on his way to the Canadian embassy, he realizes that other side of war. "We got past the tanks without problem. They didn't look very exciting up close, not like the plastic model American tank on my dresser. These were dark, ugly, wicked machines. I guess it was all a game to me too, Dad. It isn't anymore." Alex also, through his experience in China, becomes aware of what a true hero is. Both Alex and Xinhua thought the PLA soldiers were heroes and administrators of justice. However, after seeing the massacre, their views changed. Later in the novel, Alex realizes who the true hero was in his life. "To me, Xinhua was a hero. I had known two real heroes in my life, and they were both dead. Not one of them had worn a uniform." Alex defines a hero as not a person with a gun or who appears manly and strong, but a person who fights for justice no matter what the cost. Both Montag and Alex are isolated because their situations are very unique compared to others around them. As a result, they fight by themselves. Both endured a similar situation of not knowing what to do and who to go for help. Montag, knowing the fault in his actions and call for duty to save books, is conflicted where to go for help. Nobody listens anymore. I can't talk to the walls because they're yelling at me. I can't talk to my wife. She listens to the walls. I just want someone to hear what I have to say. And maybe if I talk long enough, it'll make sense. I want you to teach me how to understand what I read. Montag's isolation conflicts his ability to do what is right. Alex is isolated in terms of his working capabilities, language, and physical appearance in China. Alex's thinking is disturbed. Quote, "The most frustrating thing is that I can't really do anything because I can't speak Chinese. I'm isolated. In our hotel suite, everybody but me has work to do. Now I'm afraid Dad wants to stay here longer. China wasn't my country. I wasn't responsible for what happened. What was it for me except maybe a bullet in the back of my head?" Alex's thinking is disturbed by his isolation, and therefore is overwhelmed at what to do and rethinks his actions. Death and sacrifice. Both Montag and Alex experience loss of life, innocence, and morals to what is true and right. Both lose their innocence to who they were before. Both had lost someone along the way that affected them and their actions. Montag, after witnessing the woman's death, realizes that books appear to of more worth than it seems. At that point in the novel, Montag is overwhelmed by the death around him. "No," said Montag, "my wife is dying. A friend of mine is already dead. Someone who may have been my friend, but was burned less than 24 hours ago. You're the only one I knew might help me to see." Montag is moved by both Clarice's and the old woman's, Betty and Millie's death, affecting his actions. He feels their death are not to be in vain. After witnessing Lao Shu's Xinhua and other students' death, Alex realizes that civil war appears to be more than just tactics and weaponry. They killed Xinhua, they killed Lao Shu, they killed everybody. He understood that we owed it to Xinhua to get the context of the tapes and films on the news. Alex realizes their death should not be in vain, and as a result gets the tapes to Canada. Similarities in situation and how characters may act differently or outcomes may be different. Both Montag and Alex went through a similar journey, adventure, and situation to contribute to a rebellion against societal norms. They were exposed to brainwashed society. Montag liked burning books and did it because it felt right. Alex believed war and power was a symbol of greatness, that politicians fought for what is right and protected citizens. They were influenced by rebellion of a minority. Montag starts to understand the other point of view, why literature is needed and how television ruined lives. Alex realizes with power comes responsibility and can be abused, therefore why people protest for better governments. They both believed in what is truly right. Montag realizes that books are needed for they recorded our past and share our memories, etc. Alex realizes that if one is treated unjustly by power, they must stand up to equality. They both lose significant others. Montag loses Mildred, his wife, who loses hope in Montag, Clarice, who brought Montag to his senses, and the old woman who was burned with their books. Alex loses Lao Shu, who explains the situation to him, Xinhua, who sacrifices herself to help Alex to get to Canada, and other students and civilians who protested and were killed for what is right. They were both influenced to make changes and wanted to do something. Montag seeked to find meanings behind text, steal and protected books from burning, and tried to read others. Alex smuggled tape recordings of the protests and massacre in China to broadcast to Canada and the world. Both were no longer innocent, and society attacks them. Montag was wanted for murder for killing Betty and possessing books. Alex, being a journalist's son and a foreigner, was tracked down to prevent information from leaking. Both were changed from who they were, for they believed and understood what is truly right. Montag believed that books were not useful, but the sacrifices people made tells otherwise. He learns we shouldn't be blind to what we have and what needs to be done. Alex believed that power was great, and warriors were strong, and known for their manliness at battle. He realizes that abused power is wrong, and that true warriors are the ones who sacrifice themselves for hope and justice. The contrast between the texts. Conflict. Montag was a one-man team apart from Faber, as he was rebelling against society by himself. Only in the end Montag joined others of the same fate. If there were others before which he could relate to, Montag would have to deal with his reluctance of whether his actions were the right thing to do or not. In contrast, Alex was influenced by a big group at first and fought in groups, but in the end he was left alone to tell his story. If he were to start off alone, being a teen, it would be harder for him to change and to understand the communism struggle in China. It is because of the rebellion and their experiences did Alex's morals, thoughts, and actions changed. Themes of human nature and experience. It is human nature to go with the norm and to be within a group. Both Montag and Alex were brainwashed to believe in something. We personally as humans know what is wrong, but others influence us to think otherwise. This trait prevents people from doing what is truly right in groups. People like obedience and comfort. No one would like to take responsibility. Both Montague and Alex were hesitant to do what is right because it wasn't normal. When approved by power, one is bound to act differently and possibly abusive. This is evident in both works where higher power, such as a boss, government, or army, takes advantage of power. This causes internal confliction within Montague and Alex, whether to rebel against higher authority.